Welcome to the final part of the advanced tutorial. Making it this far is truly an achievement, and we have nothing but respect and gratitude for you. In this last part, we'll fine-tune various elements, add effects, and introduce truly advanced techniques, the kind we've developed through building Feather and creating art with it. Some of these techniques might seem like workarounds. As we continue pushing the limits of the tool, not every solution is perfectly polished, but that's part of the process. Because we're not just building a tool, we're also exploring how art and design evolve with it. And that includes your work too. We can't wait to see where this journey takes us. Let's finish strong. Now, let's start using a background image. In Feather, you can apply both a background color and a background image simultaneously. Since the background color also acts as environment lighting and render mode, adjusting it before adding an image can enhance the overall quality of your work. For example, this background image has a gradient from the top, adding more depth and richness to the scene, even though, in reality, very little light reaches the deep sea. Okay, let's adjust the submarine's tone to match the background. To make it feel like it's truly deep underwater, we'll add a cooler blue tint. In Feather's render mode, dark areas won't appear completely black unless the stroke itself is pure black. So, if you want a heavier, deeper darkness, it's more effective to darken the curve colors while increasing the light intensity. Consider the colors of the deep sea and find a natural balance. Once you settle on a base color, adjusting the rest becomes much easier. Since the background is a deeper blue, even if we add more blue to the submarine, our eyes will still perceive it as a natural white in contrast. Keep fine-tuning the colors and lighting. Adjust the transparency and brightness of the windows until they look just right from the current viewing distance. Make sure the darkest areas of the submarine don't appear too hazy or overly dark, as that can make them stand out unnaturally. Also, balance the brightness of the submarine's lights to maintain a natural look. Imagine actually looking at a submarine underwater. This will help guide your adjustments. Here's an important tip. How can we effectively adjust the brightness of the creature? The brightness slider is already at max, and lowering the opacity would erase the carefully blended gradients. Here's a hint. We painted the entire creature with the same color, meaning we can adjust all of it at once. In this case, the best approach is to tweak the brightness and saturation to achieve the desired level of brightness. Now, let's adjust the terrain to make the creature more visible. It shouldn't be too hidden or too exposed, just partially covered. This way, depending on the viewing angle, different parts of the creature will be revealed, adding a sense of depth and dimensionality. We'll also slightly reposition the submarine, making it feel like it's looking down at the deep-sea creature. These small adjustments help enhance the storytelling and create a stronger sense of presence in the scene. Next, let's draw beams of light coming from the submarine's lamps. We'll use a wide brush with pressure sensitivity applied. Before starting, try drawing a few freehand strokes to get used to the pressure control and adjust the sensitivity if needed. Once you're ready, draw strong strokes at the start, gradually fading out. Overlapping lines will create a brighter effect, but be careful. Too much overlap can make certain areas stand out unnaturally. Adjust each stroke carefully for a smooth gradient. After finishing, select all the strokes and duplicate them. Then, stack them vertically to create a more three-dimensional light effect. And just like that, you have volumetric light beams. Now, let's add effect trails following the creature's movement path. Use colors that blend harmoniously with the creature. Repeat the process of drawing a guide, rotating the view, and adding lines. Back when Feather was first developed, there weren't many features yet. Sometimes, all we could do was draw guides and sketch lines manually. This method feels like a throwback to those early days. Pay close attention to the density and flow of the effects. Even now, this technique remains a great exercise for mastering feathers fundamentals and developing a stronger sense of 3D form. Now, let's adjust the transparency and tone of the curves to remove any flat or monotonous areas. You can also erase unnecessary curves to refine the composition. Finally, let's fine-tune the overall shape. Talking about feathers' early days was fun, but honestly, I wouldn't want to go back to a time before Liquify existed. We're at the final step. There's just one last thing missing from this vast, dark, and empty ocean: particles. They could be plankton, bubbles, or just floating dust, adding movement and atmosphere to the scene. This is actually one of my favorite techniques to share. Placing 3D particles in space not only makes the visuals more dynamic, but it also enhances the sense of depth. And the best part? You can apply this technique to so many different projects. First, switch to top view and draw a spiral guide. Make sure it doesn't loop more than once and has a noticeable change in diameter as it expands. Enable both X and Y axis mirroring. As you rotate the view, start placing dots across the space. Keep them wide and evenly distributed. It almost feels like magic, watching multiple dots appear at once. Be careful not to overcrowd the particles, as too much density could clutter the scene later. Also, avoid dragging the dots into lines. Keeping them as small, distinct points will make the particle effect look cleaner. Once you've placed enough dots, turn off all mirroring and start randomly repositioning them. Begin in top view, then switch between different angles as you adjust. Rotate, scale, and experiment with different transformations. Using this method, you can effectively draw particles in feather. If it feels like there aren't enough particles, simply duplicate the entire group and move it around. If it feels too dense, erase some areas where the particles are clustering. Finally, adjust the tone, transparency, and color of each particle group to add more variation and depth to the scene. Now, let's add water turbulence around the submarine to enhance the visuals. The process is similar to how we created particles. Start by drawing a guide, then enable mirroring and add lots of air bubbles. Vary their sizes to create a richer, more dynamic effect. Imagine running a particle simulation as you shape the flow of the effect. At the right moment, turn off mirroring and scatter the bubbles freely. Fill in any empty areas, but to break up symmetry, keep mirroring off and adjust left and right sides separately. Around the propeller, add a higher concentration of bubbles, making sure to spread them out naturally. Now, let's do the same around the creature using the exact same method. And with that, we've reached the final step of this tutorial. All the elements are complete. It's finished. Now, the last step is simply enjoying your work. There's nothing better than taking the time to appreciate what you've created from different perspectives. Try enabling out-focusing for a fresh new look. In sequence, you can save multiple viewpoints and play them back in succession. Find the best angles, pin the focus points, adjust the depth, and when you're happy with the result, save it. And with that, we've reached the end of the advanced tutorial. Unlike the basic tutorial, which focused on introducing features, this series aimed to share the full creative experience of using Feather, what it feels like to draw with it, and the thought process behind it. If that came across, then you've likely gained a deeper understanding of 3D drawing. Now take it further, use Feather freely, and explore bolder, deeper, and more vivid ideas. We'll be here, building new features while you create. Thank you for joining us on this journey.